Welcome, Internet, to the Pixel Play Podcast, your weekly gaming podcast where we dive into all the news, rumors, and topics going on in the gaming industry. I am one of your co-hosts, Kaylan, aka Ktastrophy, joined as always by my co-host, Adam, CSRadical. In this week's episode, we're going to be talking about the blue box conspiracy theory. That's right, folks, get your tinfoil hats. We're going to dive deep on this one. We're going to be talking about Horizon Forbidden West getting delayed until 2022 and what that means for Sony and gaming at large for the rest of the year. We're also going to be talking about EB Games becoming Gamestop here in Canada, and Adam is coming in hot with a new Untimely review for Final Fantasy VII. Yes, fans, the Final Fantasy nerd has played the remake. Let's see what his thoughts are. If you like that and you want to hear the show, we are wherever you get your podcasts. If you want to see our lovely smiling faces, you can see us on YouTube at pixelplaypodcast. And if you want to get in touch with us, you can email us questions, comments, whatever, at pixelplaypodcast@gmail.com. Or if you want something a little bit more immediate, we are also on Instagram and Twitter under pixelplaycast. And with that, Adam, one last piece of business. We were talking about this. Next week is our 30th episode. And as always with our 10th episode, we are going to be doing it live on next week. So that will be August 10th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And you can catch us on Adam's Twitch channel, CSRadical at Twitch. So without further ado, Adam, let's get into it. First question. How are you doing, sir?
I am doing, wonderfully, all things considered. You know, we actually had a couple of string of cold days, so weather-wise, it's not friggin' boiling in this house yet.
It's been amazing.
Give it a couple more days, it'll be right back to normal. And I am ecstatic because I have been playing some fantastic games lately, and one of them we'll get to talk about. Or maybe I'm just lying. Maybe I'm just going to come back and turn around and be like, actually, 7 has always been garbage, and I can't wait to talk about it more. But you'll have to stick around to find out.
No, I think you gave away the lead, my friend. But yeah, let's actually just jump right into it right now. Let's start with the easy one. We're going to talk about Horizon Forbidden West. So basically this week it's been coming around rumors that Horizon Forbidden West is going to be delayed. So I'm going to read from Andy Robinson at Video Game Chronicle. So he's saying, for Horizon Forbidden West is going to be delayed. He says that's according to Games Beat journalist Jeff Grubb, who said on his Giant Bomb show on Thursday that he'd heard via a source that Sony would likely push the Guerrilla title to next year and could announce the slip in a live stream around September. Sony previously warned that Horizon Forbidden West might not be released during this calendar year as planned, stating that it wasn't prepared to compromise quality or the health of its developers to get the game out during a period when AAA game development has been pummeled by the pandemic. And then they updated later that Sony Interactive has decided to delay for Horizon Forbidden West into next year, according to another report. Adam, is Horizon Forbidden West going to come out in 2021?
I'm starting to think it won't.
Yeah.
I really wanted to, because you want something to kind of cap off what's been, I guess, not even a bad year, but like a bad 2 years. You want like something cool to really come out towards the end to kind of cap off this whole, everybody's finally starting to get vaccinated. All this is finally coming to somewhat of an end for whatever that means. And it looks like we're going to be waiting a little bit longer. The catch, I guess, is who knows? Maybe that just makes next year even more of an absolute bomb of a year. So it depends on which way you look at it. If you're a glass half empty guy, you're pretty upset. And if you're a glass half full guy, you're thinking, man, 2022 is going to be so good.
Yeah, I'm with you as well. I think they're going to delay it. I think they're at a perfect point to delay it. There hasn't been a huge amount of marketing for it. I mean, we had that one state of play, and that's pretty much been it. So it's not like they've spent a huge amount of money to get this buzz around it, and now they're pulling it out. It's, it's people are excited. There's definitely hype for it, and we've definitely seen some footage. But yeah, I think like they haven't invested enough that they're going to lose a lot of marketing budget that they've already spent. So if they're going to delay it, I think now is the time. And I think given everything that's been going on, I mean, if you missed it, you may have not caught it, but we had a pandemic, and so that is definitely going to impact game development. And I think we'll talk about this later. Like, what does 2022 look like for gaming? But let's kind of keep it a little bit more current. What does this mean for Sony by delaying for Horizon Forbidden West?
if it means anything like monetarily, I don't think it does. I think it just puts another sore spot in Sony fans right now, especially coming off of E3. Now, we both collectively looked at E3 as not the biggest show that it could have been. But I mean, if you're a Sony fanboy, you're sitting there being like, okay, but if we're going console war here, I want my fodder so I can punch every Microsoft and Nintendo fanboy in the face because they're wrong. Because, now that we have nothing to show, it's like, okay, well, what do I have to point at people and be like, hey, you guys got nothing coming, look what I got. Now it's just, you're sitting there in the dark. Now, from a normal person like us, we're just sitting there being like, man, I got stuff I can play, but it'd be cool to see what else is coming. Like, it'd be cool to see a couple of surprises or, a couple of unannounced things that we don't know about yet, or even just a trailer for God of War Ragnarok, which I hear is supposedly coming soon in the next month. Who knows? But, like, right now, it's to know that we're likely what was going to be the biggest game of this year for Sony players is now probably not coming this year. It's a bit of a downer. But I think, like I said earlier, it just depends on how your outlook is. For me, I'm like, okay, whatever, do what you got to do to make this thing absolutely 10 out of 10 worthy when it comes out, whenever that is next year. And I'll find something else to do. But I can also see the other side, which is, man, I was really looking forward to playing this too.
Yeah, you see, I'm of the mind that I think for Sony, this is a huge loss. I mean, people have put a lot of money in, like, it's been difficult to get a PS5, and I think for some, this might be the tipping point that they're like, you know what, I can wait in terms of getting a PS5. Like, without Horizon, like, there hasn't been a huge amount of big first party, titles that make me, I need to buy a PlayStation. Miles Morales is on the PS4. Ratchet and Clank is, Returnal is a very niche game. So, like, it's not everyone's talking about it. Like, it's a set group of people who like it. And it's a good game from what I hear. I'm not playing it because I'm not into those kind of games. But, like, it's a niche game. And then Ratchet and Clank is probably the most universal in terms of big first party games. And even that one was, like, it was great. But it's a short 15-hour campaign and that's it. So I think for Sony to come up at the holiday season and they really have nothing. I mean, they've got Deathloop, which who knows what that's going to look like, but I think that's going to be, once again, a very niche game for a certain target audience. Kena Bridge of Spirits, which we haven't heard much of either, and
I think that's being delayed as well, but I think it should still be coming out this year, if I'm not mistaken.
I think it's been delayed to September or October. So, like, your big Sony AAA games are going to be Kena Bridge of Spirits and Deathloop. And those are both coming in September. I
mean, I guess the devil's advocate then would be okay, but what is Microsoft doing that is countering that? Nothing really, unless you're talking Game Pass, which is still the great thing. Well, when's Halo coming out?
Soon.
So I mean, at this time right now, like, it's downing for Sony fans, but realistically, like, if you're looking at the console war status, you're still winning in terms of, like, the games at the top, because I mean, you're still looking at Demon Souls, Returnal, despite what you may think about it being niche, and then you also have Ratchet and Clank. So there is something there. It's not like the console is completely pointless. Not to mention Miles Morales, you did say is PS4, but there is a PS5 version with some upgraded improvements. I just finished Final Fantasy VII Remake with its graphical improvements, and it makes a big difference. I said it from the very beginning, and I'll say it again. If anybody's looking at this console in the first year thinking that it was going to be a games powerhouse, you better chill for a minute, because the whole point of this console was that we were going to spend this first little bit marveling at the fact of what 60 frames consistently is. Not to mention a little bit of a better graphical fidelity. You're getting that 4K. So it's like, okay, guys, like, everybody, it's been a pandemic and everybody's trying to figure out how to work with this new technology with the SSD and the graphics pushing and the 60 frames. Like, you got to give it a minute. And especially with the pandemic, like I said, it was going to add up. And it's like, okay, we knew that the first year was probably going to be a bit of a wash. It's the fact that we got Ratchet, the fact that we're probably getting Kena, the fact that we got Demon Souls. We got a couple of things here to at least be like, okay, well, it wasn't for naught in the first 12 months. But now we start looking at something like 2022 and being like, all right, now that we're looking at potentially a full 12 to 18 months of people back in the offices and getting to work on stuff, what are we getting now? 2022 is really going to be that year, I think, for both Microsoft and Sony to be like, all right, here's where we're standing in the next little while.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you. I think 2022 is going to be, I think, for both publishers, but I think Sony is going to be the one real winner coming out in 2022, just because they have, theoretically, Horizon Forbidden West. But this now raises the question of, when does God of War come out? Are we going to see a situation like Last of Us Part 2 and Ghost of Tsushima where you have two of some of Sony's biggest, franchises, or one, like the biggest franchise, I'd say probably right now, plus another huge one coming out month after month from each other, like they did with Ghost of Tsushima or Last of Us? Do they bump out God of War? And that's not even to say like the other games that we see. Like maybe next year we see Spider-Man. Like that one's due to be coming out imminently. So like, are we going to see a banner year for Sony games next year?
I mean, as a guy who's been over the moon with all these Marvel properties that have come out in the last couple of months, I've had 3 television series and a movie so far, and we got another one coming not too long now in Shang-Chi. I am not going to complain if I get 5 blockbusters in 1 year. I do not care. It can be within the span of 4 months. I do not care. I will get to them eventually, and if I will love every single one of them, it doesn't matter to me. So I mean, if I'm a Sony owner, and you're telling me, well, we're going to push back Horizon, so that means Horizon and God of War and possibly a new Uncharted game and whatever else that we come out with, it might all be coming in the same year. I'll be going, good, I'm down. Let's go.
Yeah. And that's not even to say what Microsoft is bringing to the table. I mean, you've got Starfield coming out next year. I think for Horizon is coming out as well, isn't
Forza
it?
Horizon? Yeah, it should be.
Forza Horizon. Yeah. What did I call it? I said Horizon.
I think you just said Horizon. I mean, at this point, like there's a whole lot of unsurety because not much is still dated.
Mm-hmm.
Most of it's like, okay, it should be coming out in the next little while. Like, you got to think, Ghost. We got to be getting a thing on Ghostwire Tokyo or Gotham Knights or the Suicide Squad game, Gran Turismo 7, Hogwarts Legacy. There's a lot of stuff that we're still waiting to hear on. And they could be things that are coming out even a year after that, which would be a shame. But I mean, there's so much of a possibility of the things that we already know exist, let alone things that are still unannounced at this point. So yeah, and that's why it, like we said earlier, like 2022 is shaping up to be maybe not one of the best years we might ever get for games, but it's shaping up to be a potential for that.
Oh, I think
there might be a lot of stuff coming out in the same
I think
time.
2022 is going to be remembered as one of the best years of gaming. I think just like we're seeing the effects of the pandemic right now, and we knew that this was coming. We knew that there was going to be a delay in games. Like the reason why we didn't see it at the beginning is because a lot of those things were already done. We're now seeing the projects that were impacted by COVID-19. And so I think next year you're going to see a plethora of games come out. Hopefully. I mean, I hope it's not the latter case that those games also got pushed out. Like I hope that they can kind of make up that difference. So,
and ideally too, we're going to be in so much of a positive attitude coming out of assuming we come out of a pandemic in a full year, and we're going to be sitting there watching all these games just being like, all right, this is what we mustered through 2 years for. This is what we worked towards. So I mean, there's going to be a potential that a lot of games, especially if like even half of all these games come out at like great tier quality, man, it's going to be one of those years you kind of look back at, like, say some people look at like say a 2010 for games and just being like, man, there were just so many bangers that year.
I think we're going to have a rematch between, Breath of the Wild 2 and Horizon 2. It's going to be the rematch between the two of them.
Let's go. Let's fucking go.
Adam, speaking of games that have not been released yet, let's get our tinfoil hats on. Let's dive deep into this blue box conspiracy. Yeah, I don't have mine here either. But
I have like a Pop-Tart wrapper. Does that count?
I think it'll work against the radio wave, so I think you're good there. So I'm not going to break down everything, but there was a post on the subreddit r gaming leaks and rumors, and this was posted by Aid This Fellow User. It was posted a little while ago, but I think they compile all the information really well. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are not listening to the podcast, and I just jinxed it, go take a look. Adam has his tinfoil hat on. It's solid.
I'm trying to have it on anyway.
So what's basically going on, ladies and gentlemen, is that there is a rumor that Hideo Kojima is working on a new Silent Hill game. So essentially what happened is there was a tweet going out saying that there's a game being built by Abandoned or by Blue Box. It's codename Abandoned. If you want to figure out the codename, its first letter starts with S, the last one starts with L. Internet blew up, and they came to the conclusion that it is Silent Hill. And if you remember, there was that trailer back in 2016.
Are we talking the demo, like the PT demo?
Yeah, I think that was 2016. So that was a huge demo that kind of got killed off by Konami with the drama that happened with Hideo Kojima. But anyways, this is all rumor and speculation, but Aid This Fellow User has compiled it. So compiled that tweet. Blue Box is working on a game. It's a studio people hadn't heard of. Its project codename is Abandon. Abandoned equals a game that starts with S, ends with L. And then they also talk about it's involved, like Hideo Kojima is kind of like collaborating with them, kind of working with them a little bit. And Hideo Kojima is known to use fake studios when teasing his games. So both Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain, and PT were created by studios using fake names. So the one for PT was named 778 or 7780 Studio, and the one for Metal Gear Solid 5 was from Sweden. Abandon received a short teaser trailer on the PlayStation YouTube channel alongside a blog post hinting for the release later this year. Meanwhile, the Silent Hill composer also teased a new game reveal for summer 2021, which was later shot down by Konami, which is not the case. And then Kojima, recently tweeted the words Silent and Hill. There's new Silent Hill merchandise, which is being released at the Konami store. Now, so this is being made by Blue Box Games. However, there is no safe trademark for Blue Box Game Studios, but in their trailer, they claim that they do. And then Blue Box Game Studios YouTube banner is a bunch of hills. Someone's also saying that the Blue Box Game Studio logo is basically the PlayStation Studios logo with the colors inverted. They also make the argument that Blue Box is a term used for phone scams. What else do they have here? So during the abandoned trailer game, so at 49 second marks, the letters P and T are covered in the trees. And then they said a couple months later, Blue Box Game Studios revealed that Abandoned would get its own PS5 app, which would later run the game's trailers in real time on the PS5. This is a curiously specific thing that not even first-party PlayStation Studio games have done so. So it raised some eyebrows that this unknown game studio would be the first pioneer the feature. Another game that got console application as a teaser for upcoming game release, but was later abandoned, was PT. Yeah, so there's a whole bunch of rumors here. So Blue Box Game Studios appears to have been founded in 2015, exactly 1 year after the release of PT, and right around the time Kojima was going through his breakup with Konami. So there's a whole bunch of stuff. And then there's a whole bunch of stuff talking about, tweets with this guy by the name of Hassan Kahraman, which the initials are the same as Hideo Kojima. Hassan Kahraman, I don't know how to pronounce it, has an account on PSN, sneaky word, with the total number of trophies at 1238, the same for the Japanese Silent Hill commercial. Hassan had a YouTube channel called 2727. Silent Hills was canceled on April 27th. So there's a whole bunch of like these different strings, and I'm not saying that these are guaranteed, but I mean, the internet is just blowing up with all these ideas. And so, sorry, one last one I have here. Hideo Kojima, or Hideo translated from Japanese to Turkish, means Kahraman, which is the last name of the Hassan Kahraman, the head of Blue Box Games. Both their games mean hero in their respective languages. So like there's a lot of smoke in the sense that, the internet's just blowing up on what this could be. And is Blue Box working on a Silent Hill game? Adam, I'm going to throw it to you. What the hell is Blue Box making?
Well, it's either a Silent Hill game or it is some of the most coincidental bullshit I have ever seen in my life. Mm-hmm. Now, is it possible that they could just be pulling a fast one and it's actually a Metal Gear Solid game? Who goddamn knows? But every bit of evidence seems to point out to be like, hey, this isn't 1995. People can't, it's a lot easier to sleuth all this out. The information's not traveling, through letters and tape trading. This is happening in real time on the internet. I think we've got a good grasp on what's going on. So like I said, either it's a Silent Hill game, which I'm willing to assume it is, or somebody at this fictitious studio is having the biggest troll effort I have ever seen on the face of the internet.
Yeah, I would just love to be the guy, like Blue Box, like the game studios, like is real, and they're just like, fuck guys, like we're screwed. At this point, like it has to be a Silent Hill game, or you just need to cancel this game. Like, it is not going to live up to any of the expectations that people have for it.
Or at the very least, you have to call Hideo Kojima and be like, look, we don't know what the fuck happened, but can we just have you like put your face in a cameo on this thing just so people can be a little happy?
Yeah. I think like it's neat. Like the amount that they were able to build up this fervor is incredible, and good job to the marketing. Like, this is brilliant. But at the same time, like, you have now set precedent that it has to be a Silent Hill game, or not even, like, because this gets into the whole thing of Konami and if Konami's going to go for it and stuff. But I mean, I could see it maybe not being a Silent Hills game because or Silent Hill, but like the amount of stuff that you have to jump through would be ridiculous. But doing like a spiritual successor, like maybe the game is called Abandoned and it's Silent Hill in everything but name.
Yeah, well, I mean, it might have to be because, I mean, if they're not working with Konami, which if Kojima is on this project, I would certainly hope he's not working with them because I don't think Konami deserves to be working with him.
Yeah,
again.
You could imagine be like Mr. Sony coming up to Hideo Kojima and be like, I know things didn't go well, but could you work with him? He'd be like, no, piss off.
It's like, just pay me the money and I'll do it myself.
Yeah, so I don't think it's going to be a Silent Hill game, and I don't think that they could. I think the amount of work that would have to go in terms of getting Konami to sign off, to give it back to Hideo Kojima for him to work on it, for him to be willing to work on it as well. Like, you have to imagine that if he was going to take a project on, I feel like Metal Gear is more of his, passion project and his like little child than Silent Hill is. And so I don't know.
And I mean, look, we can make the argument that if it was ever to go back to Konami, it would be a nightmare because Konami doesn't seem to know what the hell they want to do. Because the last time they tried to do a Metal Gear game, for example, themselves, was Survive, and no one likes to talk about that game. So
we don't talk about that game, Adam.
I just did. What are you gonna do?
I don't know. We've never had this issue before.
The tinfoil hat is on, sir.
You're protected. And you know what? Maybe that's the case. Maybe Konami took a swing at it, and they're like, "Yeah, we don't need Kojima. Screw that guy. He's just one guy. We can make our own game." And then they're like, "Oh, okay, maybe we can't." And now they're kind of giving their properties to Sony to kind of ask Sony to, here, can you get him to build this for us, please?
It would be really interesting if they were willing to sell the license to those games, but I know they never would because they can make so much money off of pachinko machines in Japan using those licenses.
Hit the lever. So let's get odds. What are the odds? Like, give me a percentage. What do you think the odds are that this is Silent Hill? Or Silent Hills or whatever.
I'm not really willing to go past 50-50.
Yeah,
I think there's enough evidence to make a case for it, but I'm not willing to do that.
Yeah, I'm giving it 50% for it being a true title.
If you mean in name, I think it's even less than 50-50.
Yeah, I think in name. Oh, you were saying like just in general that I'd say if it's like spiritual successor to Silent Hill, I would say it's probably 80% chance. If it's like name only, like game and name, yeah, I'm like 45-50%.
The reason that I don't go too much higher in not name, it's because he puts a little, like, let's say it's all Kojima doing some work behind the scenes with all these little like clues here and there. Just because it might be Silent Hill based does not mean what it ends up being, because Lord knows when Kojima now has free reign, he doesn't exactly make anything normal. So God only knows, like, it might not be the Silent Hill game that we're used to.
Oh yeah, there's gonna be like floating psychic whale fish in the sky or something like that.
It might be Silent Hill in 25% name.
All right, cool. Yeah, I think it's interesting. The app launched, I think it launched July 29th. And I think it goes live next week, I think. So it'll be interesting to see what comes of that. I think it's August 12th. Let me double check that. While we're doing that, yeah, let's move on to the next one, and I'll take a look while we're doing this later, and we'll circle back. Next story coming from here in Canada, big one for us here. EB Games is becoming Gamestop. So this is actually coming from Global News here in Toronto. GameStop Corporation said on Wednesday last week that Canadian stores of its subsidiary EB Games will assume the video game retailer's brand and name by end of the year. Grapevine, Texas-based Gamestop had acquired EB Games owner Electronic Boutique Holdings Corporation in 2005 for more than $1 billion. EB Games has about 4,000 stores across Canada, with operations in Australia, New Zealand, and countries across Europe, according to its LinkedIn page. This decision follows, and they said, this decision follows our receipt of feedback from our valued customers and stockholders, GameStop said. The company had been looking to shift its focus from brick and mortar sales and accelerate its e-commerce push. Its largest shareholder, Ryan Cohen, joined its board in January and became chairman last month with a plan to revive stores and boost online sales. Adam, why is EB Games becoming GameStop?
Because corporations like to waste money by rebranding everything to make it seem like it's fresh and new.
You think that's it?
I mean, other than the fact that it's just like, hey, we don't want to be complicated, let's just put it all under one banner. I can't see it being anything other than the two. It's either we just want to be one name, or if we change the name, it might make us look a little bit fresh again. Like, if there's an ulterior motive, like, I'd love to hear what you think, but, like, I can't see from a corporate perspective any other reason other than those two options.
Well, so I think the idea, so the one thing that they talk about here, they say that this decision follows a receipt of feedback from our valued customers and stock. No one's going to EB Games and being like, man, you guys are awesome, or like, whatever, I'd shop here more if you guys were called GameStop. Like, nobody's saying that. So it is not because customers are...
That's corporate speak for, we just did something really stupid and we're just going to make up reasons for it so it looks good on a piece of paper to our investors.
So the reason, and this is totally speculation, I have no insight or anything, but I think one is that, like, right now, the GameStop name is pretty well known thanks to meme economics. Like, it is... Those guys at Wall Street Bet, shout out to you guys. You guys brought this stock back, and it has some credence to its name now. Everyone kind of knows what GameStop is. Hell, even my dad knows what the hell GameStop, is, thanks to that story. And also, he buys me Christmas presents there. But people who aren't in games now know of GameStop thanks to the guys at Wall Street Bet. So, like, there's some branding and some cash behind that name versus EB Games. I think what it talks about more is that its idea of shifting away from brick and mortar sales and accelerating its e-commerce push. I think if you have one brand, especially online, like, you don't want to have two different spaces. So I think having one large e-commerce site, it makes it a lot easier to kind of aggregate everyone to that one spot. You're not having to go to different websites. You can have just one domain that kind of siphons everyone there and then divvy them up to, like, locations as they're needed. And I think it's also, it saves money from a branding perspective. You're not paying to brand things twice. You're not paying two separate organizations and you're not paying for two domains or anything like that. Like, it streamlines it.
It's nothing that complicated. Like, it's just coming down to, like, hey, it's a lot easier for us to be recognized as one brand. Like, Walmart wouldn't be going around giving themselves 12 different names in different parts of the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sorry, I'm just going to go back real quick just to kind of circle back because I just found that information. So July 29th is when the Blue Box pre-launch app came out. So you can preload that into PS5. And August 10th, so this time next week, we'll know what the hell Blue Box is working on.
Unless it's a Kojima game, in which case we may still have no idea what it is yet.
Oh, that game will come out 5 years from now if it's a Kojima game. We still won't know what the hell it's about. Circling back to EB Games, though, yeah, I think we're totally right. I think it's just a matter of, it's easier to brand it, put it all in one spot, have one name and one brand, and just build that brand up. Do you have any, like, feelings towards EB Games or GameStop? Which one, like, does one mean more than the other?
I mean, I'll be harsh as shit. I haven't been in one of those stores in 4 years, so I could care less what they call themselves.
Really? So let's actually talk about this, because I don't think we've ever talked about it. Like, where do you stand on, like, the whole EB Games, GameStop? Where do you fall on that? Because I know it's a very divisive store for people like us.
It doesn't bother me personally. Like, I've still gone into them, like, before the pandemic, when I would still go to the mall with my girlfriend. I'd still pop in while she's in a Lush, so I don't walk into the store and literally have my nostrils assaulted by freaking smells. Well, so I'll go into a GameStop in the meantime. But, like, I could not tell you the last purchase I made in one. It's been a long time. And it's not necessarily to do with the store. Like, I used to have a lot of friends that worked at GameStop or EB Games, depending on what you're looking at. Didn't bother me either way. And it just came down to, well, most of the games I buy now, I buy through the PlayStation Digital Store or through Amazon because it's usually got better deals and it's free shipping. So I don't even have to think about that stuff. So it's the same reason why a lot of people have stopped really shopping at GameStop. It's not worth it when you really think of their sale prices usually aren't that great. You got to go in now to the store to go get them, or you got to pay for shipping for these things. I don't know. I haven't used their website in forever. And there's like realistically, you're going in there. If you're not going in there for games, you're going in there for all the random like toys and clothes and stuff like that. To which case I go, I don't need an Overwatch T-shirt, so I'm good.
You see, I'm the opposite. I really like EB Games, and I particularly like the one by my house. Like I've got one walking distance away. But yeah, for me, like I like the fact that that is a store that caters to me, and like I know that the employees there are just as excited and passionate about this hobby as I am. And so you can't get that from an Amazon, you can't get that from a Best Buy, you can't get that from a Walmart. And those stores don't care, like they don't really see value in selling games. It's an extra thing just to get people in, but that's not their bread and butter. And so to have a store that, for the most part, and I mean, I know that their business practices aren't great, like the trade-in things kind of suck, but like that's anywhere. Where else are you going to be able to trade games? If you don't like that, sell it yourself. I mean, I've never understood that. Exactly. I've never understood that thing. It's the same as if you take it to a pawn shop, you're going to get very little for it. They're a mediator or like a middleman. So for them, like they have to get it at a cheap price. I totally get it. Does it suck? Yeah, kind of. But like that's how the business model is. If you don't like it, don't do it. But for me, it's the only store that I can think of that if I wanted to talk to someone about video games, if I wanted an opinion, if I'm looking for a game, I for the most part know it's there, and if it's not there, I could easily get it. And in terms of your argument with sales, like I find that the sales are pretty universal. If Best Buy is having a sale, if Amazon's having a sale, generally the price is the same across the board. They all have the same sales. So it's
but then I have to walk to the store. I have to drive to the store to go get it. Whereas I can just click on Amazon and be like, and done.
Yeah, but there's a whole bunch of arguments about like the problems with Amazon in general too.
Well, and I've said this with Amazon before. It's like, look, I'd like to boycott them as much, but who's gonna offer me free shipping with the same price?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, there's devils in the details of any store that you use, and for me, it's like it's a store that I like, and it's a store I support, and I do hope that they stay in business.
If there was one really close to me, maybe I would look at it differently. But like the nearest one for me is like a 10-minute drive, to which I'm like, I could care less.
Oh yeah, mine is like a 15-20 minute walk, so it's great. Like a new game comes out, I'll walk up, I'll go pick it up. It's great. And like the guys are awesome there. Like if you are looking for a game that you've never tried before, like they have some good suggestions. But it's also it's a great place to get those knickknacks and that crap that you really can't get anywhere else.
Don't need.
Do 100% don't need. Like dude, most of the stuff in this basement of mine is crap I don't need. It doesn't mean I don't want it though. I do think though, and let's actually talk about this. Like, so how would you change EB Games or GameStop if you want to make it viable? And I think you brought up a great point. I think they need to get tighter in terms of what they're offering. Like I find that there's a lot of knickknacks and crap that nobody really cares or wants or needs. I think like focus, like if you could make it sort of the experience that you could get when you go to a fan expo or a Comic-Con or something like that, niche, high quality kind of collectible stuff, some cool shirts, some cool stuff, but like don't like try and get stuff that doesn't look like super geeky, or like I don't know what the term is, but you see those cringy like gaming shirts and stuff, and like
they get a little bit too far, or it's like, guys, just get a shirt with Diva on the friggin' front. You don't need to go complicated. You don't need to be like, I'm a gamer, or you have a mug that just being like, my health right now. Like it's like, guys, that's friggin' Etsy shit. Like it's not complicated, guys. Have a shirt with Call of Duty on it. Have a shirt with Overwatch stuff on it. Have a shirt with Link's face. Like, get one of these shirts. People will buy it. You don't need a gamer cred shirt. You just need a shirt that gamers would wear. Yeah,
like even just like for me, like the gaming shirts that I have is I like the ones that are like subtle. Whereas if you know the game, if you're into games, you get it, and if you don't, like I have a Division shirt and it's got like the Division Eagle logo, and it's got like their logo and whatever, some like Latin stuff on there. And I've gotten tons of people who are like, oh, that's a cool shirt. And they have no idea it's a video game shirt. They just like the design. It's like an orange eagle on a black shirt. But then I've got guys who, play the video games and they're like, dude, that's awesome. Or I've got one where it's just got like the sacred symbols. I think we've talked about it before. We've got like the logos of the PlayStation buttons there. And it's like very subtle, but like if you know, and otherwise it just looks like a neat design shirt. Like don't make them cringy. Don't make them like cheesy. Like I think like most of the people who are into this stuff now are at an age where they have disposable income that they could buy some high quality stuff. And like, if you made your brand like, hey, we've got awesome geek stuff, like we've got geek apparel and merch, and it's not just tacky, cheesy, cringy stuff, I think people would buy it.
Hashtag not sponsored. I mean, obviously, but there is a shop that I used to use that's out in Europe called Insert Coin Clothing, and they do incredible merchandise that's gaming related. Most of them are not on the nose. Most of them are very subtle. Like I'm a big Persona guy. They have a Big Bang Burger t-shirt, which is a restaurant in the game. And it looks like just some weird, like, I don't know, like you went to some random like burger shop in the middle of nowhere, like some random like one-off mom and pop shirt in like Louisiana somewhere. Like, and yet it's a t-shirt that Persona fans will look at and be like, that's friggin' cool. Where'd you get that? Like, it's a conversation starter kind of shirt. Whereas
and you have that moment, like,
EB Games shirts, they're all just, oh, this guy's an idiot that went to EB Games and bought a t-shirt.
Yeah. No, 100%. Like, and it's awesome when you have those subtle shirts and you have someone who kind of like stops you, says like, man, awesome shirt. Like, because in that moment, it's like, you guys, like, he's picking up what you're putting down, but you're not advertising it to everyone. And I think that's like the awesome aspect of it.
Yeah.
Like one of the cool shirts I had, and I got it from EB Games, is like, it's a Stormtrooper shirt, and it looks like it's a normal Stormtrooper helmet, but inside it's got like different like parts of like like you've got different sort of, I guess, silhouettes, I guess, or etchings. You guys have probably seen it on the show before, but it has like all different scenes and characters from Star Wars, but it looks subtle. Like it's, and that's the thing. I feel like EB Games needs to try and cater to a more mature audience.
I don't even know if it's mature is the right word. I just mean they need to stop treating their clientele like idiots. Because when you have gamer health mugs on your shelf, it's like, guys, we're not. No, you need to like take us like serious fans. Like we like our stuff. We're not just here to buy something that says gamer on it. Like we don't want the most simple like stuff. Like you're allowed to sell a shirt that just has the Hylian shield on it. That's fine, but you can also go a little bit deeper than that too. Like there are so many shops out there online that do what every fan wishes they could get in their local stores. Like Hot Topic, tries, but they only really go towards like the biggest games. So you're basically choosing within like 10 games. So you're not getting too much. So like you expect the game store that's the biggest in the country here in Canada and obviously in the States as well to be like,
I would say the world. Like I think with the exception of like I think in the UK,
I was gonna say I'm not sure what the difference is like game in UK comparison, but like,
but you know what, we'll say I think it's fair to say globally one of the biggest.
It's top two. So like, I would expect that store, if they're gonna sell apparel, to at least sell something to like their actual clientele, not a bunch of like parents that are gonna buy that for their kids because they just see gamer on the front of it.
Yeah.
Now, you asked me what I would do. Here's the problem with that question. They are not willing to already take my idea because it would require more store space, because you've noticed GameStop's getting slowly smaller and smaller as they put more and more stores in. It's simple. Put a couple of TVs there with a couple of like consoles there so guys can try demos. Maybe you have a tournament in there once in a blue moon. Like you do something. Like you create a community. That's what a lot of people used to be at GameStops. I used to know people that would frequent there all the time. I used to know the shopkeepers there. No one does anymore. You walk in, you get your game, and you get out. There's no point in being in that store now. And gamers are not a pop in and pop out thing. We're a community. We love to talk about our craft. We love to talk about the stuff that we love. And if GameStop is just Walmart for gamers, who cares? It doesn't mean anything. And I think people were just like, fine, I'll go to Amazon then because they do it better.
Yeah.
Like, I think you would have to do something in a community aspect that, like, I don't know what they could really do in terms of their merchandise, apart from, like we said, maybe a little bit better apparel. But, like, how much store shelving can you fill up with random trinkets before it gets to the point that people are going, are you even a game store anymore? Or are you just Hot Topic 2.0? In which case, I'll just go to Hot Topic because they do Hot Topic better.
Yeah. I hear you with that, and I definitely think there's some merit. Like, you'd have to be careful how you set that up, though, because, like, they're like, you can run into the issue of, like, who then becomes the target audience. Is it the kid, like, the 14-year-old after school who just hangs out at the EB Games until they have to go home? Or, like,
maybe you work that in with the gold cards. Be like, hey, you have this gold card. Maybe even it's a platinum one, so you got to make them really pay for it. It's like, hey, you got a platinum card, plop up over there. You can play. You can play it for half an hour. I don't know what you do. Like, figure something out. But, like, it's honestly, if you really asked me that question and you wanted me to have a serious answer, the answer is I don't think you have anything you can do. I think you just survive as best you can. I don't really know what they can do.
Well, I think they do some. I think they do some cool stuff to differentiate themselves. Like, I know right now with the platinum membership, I think you can have it where you can buy a game and you have 7 days to return it for, like, store credit, which is something that none of your competitors do. But, like, it's intriguing. Like, the idea of having EB Games sort of be the comic book shop of video games is definitely something that might have some credence.
Like, you don't even have to do it for every store. Like, you can even, like, if you're in, say, a city like Toronto or Hamilton, or depending on where you are in the US, like Chicago, New York, LA, like, you can have, like, for every 5 stores, you have one hub where it's, like, the bigger store that has stuff like that.
Yeah,
it doesn't
so
have to be in every
lounge
store. Like, I wouldn't, something like that. I wouldn't expect, like, some random store in the middle of nowhere in Iowa would do it, but I would imagine, like, if you have a large population in the area that you are, like, you can have, if your area can house more than one GameStop, I could see you being able to pull off the lounge. As kind of like in some ways, like, you know how some people are like there's a bunch of McDonald's, but there's always the real good McDonald's or the real good Starbucks. Like, there's that.
Yeah, it's an interesting, like, I definitely think, like, if you need to for EB Games to succeed, you need to harness the community that we have. But I don't know how you do that.
That's the thing. I have no idea either. I'm literally just doing what probably they're all doing in the office, which is throwing darts at the wall and hoping something works.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, that, or you go into, like, the retro market, maybe, like, you start becoming, like, a distributor of retro gaming. And I know that they're starting to dabble in that. But I don't know. It's a hard one.
Well, that's the thing too. Like, there's, especially when you're talking these small stores, there's only so much you can put in that space. Like, it'd be really cool if we saw retro games in there again, but they barely have enough space as it is. You're not going to see a shelf with a couple of Retron consoles, with, like, a few Super Nintendo games and Sega Genesis games and N64 games. Like, it's not going to work that way. Not to mention that these things aren't being mass produced, so it's a hard thing to do. That when I've seen people suggest the retro gaming idea, I'm like, I don't think they can pull it off.
But you see, the retro gaming is an interesting one because it becomes almost like a Winners or a Home sense where it's, you don't, like, they don't stock every game, but you pop in to see what's there, right?
Yeah, but I mean, that's the same thing anybody does with, like, a Value Village or a thrift store, right? So I don't know.
Yeah.
It really depends on what you want to go for. If you want it to be, like, something that people remember you for, I don't know if that's really enough to get people's foot in the door.
No, like, if I was, like, if I knew that no matter what EB Games I went into, I could get pretty much they'd have games for any console. I'm now, like, when I'm going away on vacation, and this sounds lame, but if I'm, like, in another city and I'm like, oh, there's a GameStop here, I'm going to stop and see which retro games they have.
Sure.
Because what my store has is different from theirs. And suddenly I'm in the store now, and I could be looking, and, like, maybe they don't have a game I want, but maybe there's a good deal on something that's current, or maybe they have one of those, like, trinkets that I'm interested in, right?
Well, the question would be then how many people would be like that, because not everybody is a collector or a retro gamer. So that's the other thing too, is, you know, both our ideas are good. I just think, like, mine would be something that would be much more involved with more gamers than just like a small segment that are collecting old games. Because I mean, no offense, but what does your idea do for people that are 12 years old?
Nothing.
Like you're not really getting the segment of like high school and back. You're not really catching that market. Like you're really basically selling it to, I guess, like 30 plus year old gamers or parents who, you know, want to go and relive their old days. But you know, is that really going to be what gets you back on your feet? To which, like I said, I don't know if either our answers do it. It's just guessing. Yeah,
it'll be interesting to see where this goes. Clearly, we are not meant to be CEOs.
I mean, we'd probably be better off of doing it than the guy who was running Blizzard for a while.
That's true. We're hands off, so there we go. Adam, let's jump into a untimely review. So, ladies and gentlemen, as you know, we are not influential enough nor rich enough to get games ahead of time or get them sent to us.
I should know. I got this game for free.
You're ruining my segment, Adam. I'm trying to get a point across, and you're ruining it. Let me have this moment to do the intro. Normally, ladies and gentlemen, we review games on our own dime, on our own time. And so we bring games to you as we finish them, when we finish them, and they become untimely reviews. This week, Adam, what do you have for us?
This totally free game that I just didn't speak about, you know, a couple of seconds ago. Sorry about that, Kaylan. I did play Final Fantasy VII Remake, specifically Integrate on the PS5. I did get it free on PlayStation Plus, but I wanted to wait. Because my brain was like, I don't want to play this at 30 frames. No, I'm not going to play at some plebeian resolution. So I waited. I was going to wait for a price, and then my buddy who I console share with was like, so I just bought the upgrade. I guess I'm playing it now then. So I have. So about 40 hours later.
Adam, how do you want to do this? I'm going to throw it two ways to you. We can do like our standard untimely review. Or if you want a challenge, you can try and convince me, someone who doesn't play JRPGs, to play Final Fantasy VII. Which do you choose?
I can do both because it's really not a JRPG.
Okay, let's go. Take me for a ride.
If you're looking at a JRPG as the old turn-based stuff, the one that you have to sit there and grind forever, you ain't gotta do shit. You can turn it on easy and just have fun with the action combat that it has, like very Kingdom Hearts-ish, and have a pretty good time with it. And most of it, story, like if you're into story, you're gonna get plenty of that. If there's one thing I'll take away from this game, it's that they used every moment they had to make everything matter. There is very little in the game that I can criticize for being a bad decision or this character is boring. It really doesn't happen much. So it's a Japanese RPG, but as what we consider a JRPG, like the original 7, or say a recent Dragon Quest or Persona games, it's not. It is an action game that just happens to be a little bit longer than most action games. That's really it. That's how I can sell you on at least playing it. And otherwise, I can tell you should play it because it's probably the best game I've played so far this year. So there's that.
Okay.
So otherwise, 40 hours-ish, something like that, because I basically completed as much as I could without going out of my way to trophy hunt. I went into this game liking the demo, but still lowering my expectations, because personally, 7 is not one that I'm very fond of, at least the original. I understand that is not a popular opinion. Yeah, and I don't really care. I understand.
That's the radical one.
I understand a lot of people's opinions with 7, and I think it's because a lot of people grew up with 7 being their first foray into the series. But similarly, I played 4 and 6 first, and I don't even look at either of those as my favorites. So, I don't know. Maybe I'm just the one that, you know, can open their mind to later games. I don't know, I guess. But I really didn't care much for 7. I thought the characters were mostly not that interesting. The atmosphere was cool. Like, Midgar in the first, like, disc of the original game is awesome, and then when you get outside the world, it's pretty cool. There's a lot to like. I mean, the music's really good. The villains, I don't think were very good. I think Sephiroth is one of the most overrated villains in Final Fantasy, period.
Sorry, so just to confirm, are you talking about Final Fantasy, like the remake villain?
No. I'm still talking about the original at this point. Like, most of about the original that everybody talks about endlessly is like, oh man, the Cloud was such a cool hero. I'm like, Cloud is boring as shit. Sephiroth is like the most badass villain. I'm like, he has a cool scene where he walks through fire. That's what everybody remembers. He stabbed a girl. Everybody thought it was cool back then. But he really isn't that dastardly. In fact, he's a pretty boy that just happens to do a couple of bad things at some point in the game. He's nothing special. when you compare it to villains like Golbez, Kefka, and other villains in the Final Fantasy universe, like, he's got nothing on these villains. So it was not that great. So I already went into the remake being like, all right, this thing has everything possible to at least make me like this game. Because I don't hate 7 before this game, but I didn't particularly enjoy it. And then, son of a bitch, within about an hour, I said, oh crap, I'm starting to really like this world. And then about 5 hours in, I'm like, son of a bitch, I really love this world. And then the game ended, and I went, I think this might be like my second favorite game, period.
Oh, like even like not just like Final Fantasy, like this is your second favorite game.
I've moved things around. I've recently replayed 10 a bit because I had the remaster and I really wanted to go back and mess with it. Mm-hmm. It hasn't aged very well. And I think going back and looking at the story, I have a lot more to criticize with it then because I'm 33 now and not 16 when I played it, where I forgave everything because I just saw pretty girls and I was a horny teenager. Yeah. So if I was honestly like telling you my top 3, 10 is now my third favorite. 6 is still number 1, and I think the 7 remake is actually my second favorite game right now. And this is recency bias, so who knows what this feels like later. But as it stands right now, I absolutely adored this game. So, like I said earlier, the story is incredible. And they've done changes here and there, and I've seen a lot of people upset about it, and I'm not going to spoil any of them. But the remake, at least to the point that it ends, which, as most people predicted, is true. It pretty much ends with you leaving Midgard, so it's like the end of Disc 1. The journey from the beginning to end of Disc 1 in the story of the original is not the same as what the remake does. They make significant changes, some of them big, some of them small, and they add a bunch of stuff in between because, well, you can't really fit a 10-hour game in 40, 50 hours, so you gotta figure out a couple of new things to do. And I think... Sorry, go ahead.
So you're saying like they're obviously expanding it, but it doesn't feel like fluff.
No,
they've added.
No. In fact, I feel like it made me love so many more of the characters. Okay. So like Cloud, I love to death now. Tifa, who I was okay on, I really like. Aerith, who I actually didn't like a lot and was not that upset when she died in the original. I went, okay, cool. That's one less person in my party, and I love her to death now in this game. The only person in the main cast. I have bad news for
you.
What's that?
It's not going to go well for her.
I mean.
Don't get attached, Adam. Don't get attached.
We honestly don't. Like, here's the thing. I have no idea what they're going to do for the rest of the game because they've definitely made some changes that made it seem like it's going to be different. How different? We don't know, but it's going to be different. And like I said, I'm not going to spoil anything, but like they made it pretty clear that this isn't going to be script by script by script how the game runs. It's not going to go that way. The only character I still don't like a whole lot is Barrett, but that's also because Barrett's intentionally a bit of a douchebag in that game because, well, he's a pissed off environmentalist. I would be too. He's an environmental terrorist. He should be pretty pissed off. So I guess he's doing his job. But like, I didn't end up loving him as much as like I would have liked to compared to the other characters. But like, the biggest change of all is a lot of the minor characters suddenly aren't minor anymore. In the original game, Biggs, Jesse, and Wedge, who all pass away in the original game, they don't really get any time to get into your thoughts. By the end of like the point where you get to where they would be killed off, like I'm like, man, I hate the fact that I'm about to lose these 3 again. I hate it because now I love Jessie to death. I know a lot of people seem to hate her because she's like the overly flirtatious trope, but like it really does offset a lot of the darkness that the game starts off with, so I like that. And then Biggs and Wedge is like, Biggs is basically Balthier from 12 all over again. He's just the cocky, like,
course,
you know, he's basically like the Han Solo of the group. And then you got Wedge, who is just the jolly, like, fat, happy-go-lucky guy that has a lot of cats. Which, how do you hate a guy who likes cats? Come on. But like, even new characters they bring up, there's a few like new ones they bring into this fold that kind of make things decent. And every area that you grew up with, if you played the original game, seeing it fleshed out in full 4K, hearing the new orchestrated versions of all these songs, and then some of them like done differently, like some of the weird jukebox music, because they have these jukebox machines littered around the map, and you can get these vinyl records to put in them. And they have these weird things, like there's a hip-hop version of the Chocobo theme, there's a jazz version of Tifa's theme, like there's cool stuff like that that lets you listen to some of the songs you're used to hearing, but almost like you're going on YouTube and listening to cover videos. Like it's pretty cool how they deal with that stuff. So they're already done everything they do to make me love the world, love the characters, and love the story, because like I said, I don't really feel like there's a dead point in the story. There's always something keeping you going. And then you take the battle system, which honestly is similar to what 15 did, except putting a bit more of an ATB spin on it. Like, you can pause the fight to pick abilities or skills to at least like give yourself a second to catch your breath, especially if you're playing on harder difficulties. I didn't, because I like fun. I don't really care about challenge. But like, at any point in the game when you're wailing on somebody and you're like, oh shit, I need a second to kind of like heal people and maybe plan what my next thing is, hit the X button or the cross button, depending on what button you like to call it in PlayStation. I know we're supposed to call it cross, but I don't care.
We are civilized gentlemen here. It is the cross button.
It's
Xbox has an X button. We have a cross button.
So you hit the X button.
I hate you so much.
And you get a chance, like, and you see, especially when you're in like mid animation, sometimes it's really cool to see like the super slowed down like version of you like just wailing that Buster Sword on somebody. It's really fun to watch. And I do like the fact too that you can switch between characters too, so you don't have to just play as Cloud. If you want to just go around with Barrett and just constantly gun shit, do it. You want to be Aerith and just sit in the background and just wave your staff like you're actually important? You could do that. Actually, she's actually pretty good. It's not that bad. But like,
that's good though. I like that.
They don't give you like, they don't force anything on you. You can do whatever the hell you want with it. And the materia system really is unchanged. It's really just the kinds of materia you have. Like, some things are more stat based, some things are more giving you extra abilities. Like, one of Cloud's very useful ones at the beginning is something that whenever you dodge, it does a special attack. And that thing really rakes in the early points of the game. It is so helpful because it's a pretty heavy AoE attack. Like, it can take care of a lot of enemies, so you can get a lot done in the early stages. So all of that combined, by the time that I got to the end of the game, I went, man, I'm really pissed that I finished playing this, because now I really want to play the second part. My plan was to wait till it was all done. And now I hate myself for not waiting. Although I am playing the Yuffie DLC as we speak, so I at least getting some more of a fix before I have nothing to do for probably the next 2 to 3 years, because I don't think we're seeing part 2 anytime soon.
I was gonna say it's gonna be a while. Quickly, I know we'll probably have a second segment for the DLC, but thumbs up, thumbs down. Is it more of what you love, or is it different?
What, the DLC?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm especially love Yuffie, so I've only put like maybe 30 minutes to an hour into it. Within like 10 seconds, as soon as she started talking and being her jovial, like goofy self, I'm like, I love this. I'm already in. I don't even care what the hell the story is at this point. You have my attention. I mean, okay. It's Yuffie in a Moogle cloak. What am I supposed to be angry about?
Those words mean nothing to me, sir.
See, but to the people that I'm trying to sell it to, because I don't care what you think, Mr. I like Uncharted. I'm just kidding.
It's not even the one that like we go after. You usually go after Last of Us with me. But once again, this is coming full circle to our conversation. Is I'm not picking it up. The people who know, they know what you're talking about.
Yeah, well, that's the fun. I'm just signaling to my crew, you know.
Oh yeah, you're speaking to your people. Go ahead. So my question to you, as someone who's skeptical but interested in this game, does it leave at a spot? Like, does it feel like it's a concise game in and of itself? That like, if I were to just play this, do I feel closure and that like the story's wrapped up, or is it left that like, nope, you definitely need to play the second one to get the story? Like, is it closed up? Did they do it in a way that it feels like its own little story, or does it feel like it's left on a cliffhanger?
I didn't feel like it was a cliffhanger. I felt like it was okay, this is where the sequel starts.
Okay.
So like, without spoiling anything, realistically, the ending is just you specifically saying to yourself, all right, let's go and see where this takes us.
Okay.
There's not like a sudden moment that makes me go, oh, no. No, it's literally whatever you did at that point has some sort of a finite ending, and it leads into like, okay, we don't know what's going to happen as soon as we take this leap of faith, but whatever it is, we're going to be ready for it, and we're going to do it together.
So it feels more like
I mean, if you know sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. If you know the 7 stories so far, like, again, it's disc 1. They made some changes, they've added some stuff in, but it still ends at disc 1. So the only thing that's different between disc 1, the original, and this game is that they ended a little more finite, whereas the disc 1 transition is just basically, you just finished this mission, put in disc 2. By the time you get to the end of this part, there's somewhat of an ending that's like, okay, that was satisfying.
Okay. And my last question is, like, you kind of started off saying like this isn't your typical JRPG. How's like the acting and the dialogue and like the script? Is it still that over the top JRPG-ness, or is it like a little bit more serious in terms of how they do it?
It's a bit of both. I mean, there are some
Okay.
people that really, really don't like that they definitely got cues from anime in terms of like being very like emotive with sounds. Like
Yes.
you'll hear a lot of or like you'll hear
Yeah.
a lot of that. But like the actual voice acting, when it's time to get serious, they get serious. When it's time to be really funny, they get really funny. There are some moments in there that I had the biggest shit-eating grin on my face.
Okay.
And I mean, like they do it pretty well. Like everything's pretty meaningful. And it's not to the point that like I would say it's overly Japanese. I think the English dialogue does enough to like kind of set it back a little bit. I wish I'd gone back and watched some of the scenes in Japanese just to get a sense of what the difference was. But like I didn't feel a sense of like it's too over the top. I felt like there are some characters that do lean that way, but that's kind of their character.
Okay. Yeah, because that's like it's a silly thing, I know, to kind of like nitpick, but that's always been one of the things that like the over the topness of it is always something that's just kind of been not necessarily like the detriment or like the reason I don't play, but it's always been one of those parts that is just takes me out a little bit. It's like the cartoonish nature sometimes of how it's presented. But
I mean, if you're looking at a game like, say, like I recently started playing a game called Atelier Ryza, which is a much more anime game, like very anime game, where like the characters are way over the top, peppy, extremely high pitched, and all that. It's not that.
Okay.
You still have a very deep voice for a lot of characters. There's still a lot of seriousness to them. There are a couple of characters here and there that are over the top. Like, if anybody knows Final Fantasy VII, there's Don Corneo. I think we just lost Kaylan. That'll be interesting. But there he is. He's
Still
back.
here.
It really isn't like every character is an anime like version of themselves. There's the few that do, like Don Corneo, like I said in Final Fantasy VII Original, is a bit of an over the top, oh ho 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 kind of villain, and he still is that. But they do try to ground a little bit in it, that since they do have to voice act it, they can't just have a guy go up to the booth and like scream into the camera like he's going insane every 5 seconds. So at some point, like you can't have 99% Dragon Ball Z characters. You have to have a little bit of seriousness in there.
Fair enough. Awesome. Any other thoughts or opinions about Final Fantasy VII Remake?
Uh,
I don't know if that's it. That's it. I just wanted to confirm.
I'm just trying to think if there's anything special. No, just more along the lines of like, now that we're outside of Midgar, I wonder what they do in how they transfer between areas. Because after this point, there was the world map. You could go wherever the hell you wanted at this point, as long as you were able to reach it. Now, with the idea that it's a much bigger game, like you're not going to have an overworld anymore. So I imagine they're going to make branching paths between places. So it makes me wonder if the game's going to be a little bit more linear than it used to be. Because I mean, in this game, you can go between various parts of Midgar however you please. Like they don't let you go up to the top part of it where the actual like cities are. They mostly stick you in the slums because that's where most of the game takes place, which is a shame. That's honestly my only complaint, is that I would have liked to have more on the top side of Midgar, because that's where a lot of like the real beauty is, because that's where you get like the neon signs and you get the bigger buildings and the more industrial stuff. Whereas the slums, after about 30 hours of seeing garbage and stones all over the place, it's a little rough. But
I'm still here.
you're just having video troubles over the wazoo today.
Yep.
But I'm more curious to see what they do now with an open world and with a lot more locations. Maybe that's why it's okay to be a little bit linear now, because you're able to go from different place to different place and have that much more different looking atmosphere and aesthetic every time, rather than it being this full circle, which I don't think you could do with a game of this size anymore. I mean, you could try, I guess, to make a Final Fantasy 15 level world map, but I don't know if that's a great idea.
Unless you did like a hub world style.
Maybe, but like
something like Metro Exodus or something. I don't know.
Maybe, but I think with the format, like it'd be really weird if they suddenly changed it and suddenly turned it into like something more akin to 15. But then again, that's what Disc 1 and then Disc 2 and 3 kind of ended up being. So I guess who knows? But
yeah,
it's
right,
still like, for what it is, it was a really good experience, and it's just it's something that like I can't believe that I'm saying that I cannot wait to see what the next part of it looks like.
I'm really glad you liked it. In terms of rating, how are you going to rate it, and what are you going to rate it?
Well, if I rate it specifically in the moment, because I don't care about tens needing to be perfect, it was a 10. Like I absolutely adored this game to the point, like I said, it's now easily like a top 3 Final Fantasy of all time for me. So
Nice.
I mean, if I want to be a little more critical, I guess I could make it a 9.5 if I had to put the critic eye, but I don't care, so it's a 10.
Fair enough. Yeah, no, I totally get where you're coming from. I'm glad you really liked that. And it's honestly, if it's going to be a game that's going to get me into Final Fantasy, I think this is going to be the one.
Did you pick it up for free on PlayStation Plus?
I totally did.
Well, then it cost you nothing to give it a shot anyway.
Yeah, I played it once and I was very close, but it just didn't hit right at that moment. But honestly, the world and the environment and the story, like it all sounds really interesting. So I think I'm gonna give it a shot.
And like I said, like every moment, like there's even like here's a really small example. So when you start off with Aerith later on in the game, which is another character, she's a flower girl. You end up in this different part of the slums, and you go to this orphanage, and there's this black lady who is one of their, I guess, I don't know what you would call like one of the caretakers, teachers, something like that.
Yeah.
And she's got a tiny bit of dialogue, just talking about how things are there and dealing with all the kids. And then later on in the game, you go to this seedy part of the slums where it's like not strip clubs, but like cabaret clubs and gambling and stuff like that. And here you are seeing her in what this area is like akin to a bunny suit. They call it the Honeybee Inn, so they wear, you know what a bunny girl looks like.
Yeah, I'm
just
familiar.
Think of that with bees. So they're wearing like this big bee on their ass. And you see her in that uniform, and it's more just being like, I always wanted to be a dancer. Like, even just a little thing like that, of this random NPC that you saw for 10 seconds getting that extra tiny bit of backstory of just her dreams to be a dancer. And that's just like a nobody. I don't even know, I can't remember her name, but like, it's just the fact that they're willing to put a little bit more attention to detail on some people than they normally would in most of these games. And I think that's what I appreciate. It's because every little thing matters. Like, you're not like getting random dialogue and you don't have to think about it 2 minutes later.
Mm-hmm. Cool. I was gonna say that NPC's character, Tiny Dancer from Elton John's song "Tiny Dancer."
But she's not.
All
tiny.
Right, cool. Well, it's a metaphor.
No, it's a bad metaphor.
Anyways, Adam, that's a show. We're gonna wrap it there, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for sticking around with us. We hope you've enjoyed the show. If this is your first time with us, hope it was good for you. If you're one of our regulars, thank you so much for sticking around with us. We really appreciate it. If you want to connect with us, send us topic ideas, give us your thoughts. Always feel free to reach out in the YouTube channel below. Let us know what you thought about any of these questions. Feel like the questions we ask, they're open to you guys. If you guys want to tell us what you think 2022 is going to look like, if you have thoughts on what the future of VB Games is, or what the hell Blue Box is doing, let us know in the comments below. If you want to, you can also reach out to us at pixelplaycast on Twitter and Instagram, or you could reach us and give us your long form responses at pixelplaypodcast@gmail.com. We're happy to always read them on the air. Next week, August 10th, if you are listening to this before then, we're going to do our episode recorded live on Adam's channel, CSRadical at Twitch. You can reach us there.
$10 says it won't go well because our streams have always had problems.
Oh, that's the fun of it. You don't know what you're getting. It could be the best episode ever. It could be a total gong show. Who knows? You just tune in to watch the train wreck.
Every 10 episodes, we have massive technical difficulties. That seems to be like the treat.
It's part of the fun. It's part of the fun. So yes, next week, August 10th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, give or take. I have a child I put to bed, so it's sometimes hard to dictate when I'm get down here. But
it's fine. Take how long you want. I'll just run the show for 2 hours on my own. I don't know. It's fine.
There you go. Awesome. Yeah, feel free to check us out there. We'd love to see you guys. Feel free to be part of the chat. Submit questions for the show if you want. Otherwise, ladies and gentlemen, we can be found wherever you get your podcast by searching Pixel Play Podcast or by searching us on YouTube, Pixel Play Podcast. I've been Kaylan, aka Ktastrophy, and that's my co-host Adam, CS Radical, and we'll see you guys next week. Bye for now.